Are you tired of hitting the limitation of Excel basic function when dealing with complex data transformation? If you struggle with inconsistent data structure and tedious manual adjustment, this video is for you. Today, we'll dive into Power Query, the ultimate Excel feature that you need to handle more sophisticated data transformation challenges. Hi, my name is Lynn and I'm a data analyst and automation expert with experience in banking and logistic industry. And welcome back to my channel, where I share practical tips and techniques to boost your productivities and make the data work for you. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, consider subscribe for more exciting content coming in your way. In the previous videos, we've helped Excel property, a growing property chain, to combine their messy timesheet data from multiple stores using the VStack function. While VStack is great for simple tasks, it's not enough to handle more complex scenarios like handling different column orders or performing advanced data cleaning. And that's where Power Query comes into place. In these videos, we'll cover several key topics to help you to get used to Power Query and master the data transformation technique. First, we'll start by getting to know the dataset better to understand its structure and identify potential issues. I'll show you a different way to import data into Power Query, making the process more efficient. Next, we'll learn the basics of appending data from multiple sources to create a united dataset. Then we will level up our skill with more advanced technique. I'll show you how to dynamically combine data and ensuring that your query is automatically updated when new data is added. I will also highlight some common pitfalls such as recursive queries, and I'll show you how to debug and avoid these issues. Now, before we start, you can download the data file using the link in the description below. And there's also the timeline to help you to navigate through all the sections of the videos. Please feel free to pause, rewind the videos when needed. Ready to elevate your data transformation game? Let's get started. What we have here is the employee timesheet for store 3. Each timesheet is stored nicely in a table format, located in different worksheets. Each table contains the information of employee ID, the date and the week date, the status including working, holiday, and sickness. Next to it, we have clock in and clock out time for when the status is working, and it is empty whenever the status is holiday or sickness. And finally, we have the approved overtime that is filled in by the store manager. The problem with this dataset is the order of the columns are not the same for each table. As you can see here, for employee number 12, the clock in and clock out times are just right after the employee ID. And for the employee 13, the date and the weekday column are swapped. This problem is not easily solved with just simple formulas in Excel, and we do not want to manually check when there is new data added into the sheet. So we're going to use more advanced Excel features to help us solve the problem automatically and seamlessly. So let me introduce you to Power Query. I'm going to import data into Power Query. So select any cell within the table, go to Data, from Table and Range. A Power Query window appears with the data imported from timesheet of employee number 11. Now we need to combine this dataset with order employees data. So we have to import order table into Power Query too. The problem is whenever Power Query windows open, you cannot use Excel at the same time. So you would need to go back to Excel and import a new data while keeping your query running in Power Query. So to do that, you need to click Close and Load, choose Close and Load to. A pop-up will appear, allowing you to select how you want to load your data. Right now, I will select only Create Connections and click OK. As you can see here, in the Query and Connection panel, a query of employee number 11 appear, and this query is now running only as a connection at the back-end engine of Power Query. This is one of the ways to save your work in Power Query when you did not finish building your query and you want to add additional data from Excel or from other sources to Power Query. All right, now I'm going to import the second table. So go to employee number 12, select the range from table and range. And we have employee number 12 data added into Power Query. But as you might notice, we have many tables that need to be imported. So importing one by one from Excel's workbook, this is not an efficient way to do. Let me show you a better approach to import data from Excel into Power Query without having to switch between Power Query and Excel's window. Notice that here in the formula bar, we can see the table name, that is employees number 12 here, and employee number 11 here. Now, if I change the name of the table to employee number 13, the data is updated accordingly. So simply by changing the table variable name, we can get to the data we wanted without moving back and forth between Excel and Power Query. So let's do that. So I'm going to duplicate the query. Now update the name of the query to employee 13. And now the table name here is employee 13. That is correct. I'm going to change this back to employee 11 here so that we have the data from employees 11. Perfect. So now we have all our table imported into Power Query. Now we need to stack all these queries on top of each other. So how do we do that in Power Query? So simply go to Home, Append Queries, Append Queries at New. A pop-up will appear which allow you to choose which tables you want to append. In other words, to combine or stack all the selected table on top of each other. So by default, you can combine two tables, but in our case, we have three. So click on three or more tables. Here, you can choose which table you want to append. I'm going to select them all and click on Add to move the selected table to the shortlist. You can remove the shortlist table. Here I have the duplicate of employee number 11, so I'm X them out by clicking on Remove button. And you can also move the table up or down using this button. I'm going to make employee number 12 as the first table and click OK. Now, as you can see, all tables are appended accordingly and all the information are being picked up correctly with the column's name. This means that even if the columns are in different order across different tables, Power Query can identify that they are the same based on the name of the columns. And the other important notes is that the first table that you're using in the append queries, Power Query will use the structures, meaning the orders and the names of the column from the first table as reference for the final appended table. That explains why the order of the final table the appended table query here, following the structures of the table employees number 12, which happen to be the first table in our appended lists right here. Now, we do not want this order, right? We want everything to follow the employee number 11 structure. So what we need to do is to click on the gearbox here, and the pop-up of the append table appear again. Now, move employees number 11 table to the first position and click OK. And now you have all the table appended on top of each other with the correct orders of the column. All right, now I'm going to quickly apply the correct data type to all the columns. So click Ctrl 8 on your keyboard to select everything. Go to Transform and Detect Data Types. Now simply cross-check and adjust the column that is not in the data type that you want. So this one to be dates, and this one clock in and clock out time, I want them to be in the time formats. All right, now I'm just going to adjust the name to timesheet. All right, now we're ready to load this query into Excel's. We have so many back-end connection that we don't necessarily want it to load to Excel. So I'm just going to simply load as the connection. Only create connection, click OK. From the query and connection panel here, right-click, click on Load To, and simply adjust the connection to Table and New Worksheet. Click OK. And our new appended table is added into the Excel workbook. And this is the proper dataset that we've wanted. We now have a new employee, so we need to update our query with the new data. We would need to add another query of employee number 14 over here and then append it into the master query. As you can see, it still requires manual interventions, so this is really not an optimal method. So let me show you a better way to combine similar data sets, fully automated when new data is added. All right, so let's start over. I'm going to delete the timesheet. As you notice, when the physical table is deleted, the queries is automatically changed to connections only. Now we do not need all of the query here, so I'm going to delete them as well. We're going to use only one query to combine data. So I'm going to rename this into master combine. Now let's head back to Power Query by double-click on the query. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the formula here. In particular, the Excel.current workbook. Now I do not need the rest of the formula, so I'm going to delete them and hit enter. And what do we have here? We get a list of table objects and their corresponding name. Now, if I click in the blank area in the content column, I can see the review of the content in each table of the column. As you can see, Excel.current workbook is a powerful function that allow Power Query to read and collect all the defined objects in the current Excel's workbook, like table and name ranges. And it summarizes all of these objects in this query. Now that we have the list of all the table we want to combine right here. So how do we combine them? It's a lot simpler than you think. You just need to know where to click. So notice that there's a button with double arrows pointing into the opposite direction. This means that you can expand or extract the content from a column that hold complex data type In our case, that is the nested table within the column. So let's click on this expand button. Now we need to select which column we want to expand from the list of columns that are listed here. So we want everything. We don't want to use the original column name as prefix and hit OK. And we have the content for each table appended on top of each other. And again, the first table on the list is used as the template to mark the orders of others column headers for the rest of the remaining table. We don't need the column name here, so I will remove it. Now, for the query optimization purpose, I'd rather reduce my data size sooner than later. In other words, I prefer to remove the column before I expanded the content. So how do I do that? I simply click on the remove column steps in the apply step panel over here, drag and drop it above the expanded steps. As you can see here, I remove the name column and then I expanded the content. And now we do not see the extra column here anymore. All right, as the final step, we're going to adjust the data type. So Control A to select all the column, go to transform and detect data type. And now load it into the workbook. New worksheet and hit OK. Now let's move the data from employee number 14 to our workbook. Drag and drop. I'm going to make the window a bit bigger. All right, now what we need to do is go to master combine and refresh our data. And let's see if employee number 14 data is added. And it worked. But wait, we have 197 records for each table. And we have 4 tables. So we should have 788 rows only. Why the number of rows are more than what we're supposed to have here. And if I right click again and refresh the table, the number keep going up. So we really need to take a closer look at what's going on here. Let's head back to Power Query and debug our query. Let's start to debug our query from the start. So in the Apply Step panel, click on the first step, Source. As you can see, this step of the query has changed. The Power Query has picked up 2 new items. That is the new table, employee number 14, and the master combined table. Table employee number 14 is picked up as we wanted, but the master combined table should not be there. And that is the cause of our problem. Let me explain. So we previously loaded the master combined table into the Excel's workbook as a physical table. And that's why the Excel's current workbook is now picking up the information from this table and put it right here in the list. So when the appended process happens, the master combined table brings all the previous data from Excel's, which already combined the data from employee number 11, 12, and 13, and again combined it with the rest of the table in that list, which is employee number 11, 12, 13, and 14, which doubled the number of records that we're supposed to have. So every time you bring in new data, this master combined table will be inflated with existing record from the workbook. And that is not something that we want. So to avoid this query recursive problem, the trick here is that we need to remove the master combined table completely from this list before we even start appending all the tables together. So we're going to simply use the filter button here to filter out the master combined table from the list. Just for you to know, you can also apply more advanced filter techniques, like the text can begin with the employees word only, etc. But to keep this simple, we're going to exclude the master combined table for now and hit OK. Now we have the filter steps added right after the source, and then everything else will follow. So now if we close and load the data, and you can see that we have 788 rows loaded into this physical table as expected. In today's videos, we've explored the power of Power Query and how it can handle complex data transformation with ease, far surpassing the capabilities of Excel basic formula. We've seen how Power Query can combine data from multiple different sources even when the columns aren't in the right order, making it a game changer for data management and data transformation. While we've successfully combined data from multiple tables within a single workbook, what happens when your data is spread across multiple workbooks? This introduces a new level of complexities that require more advanced techniques, and that's exactly what we'll be doing in the next videos. We'll dive into these scenarios and explore how to handle data stored in multiple Excel workbooks and also extract the missing data even when the information is not available within your dataset. I hope you found today's tutorials helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your colleague. And leave a comment below on any questions or topics that you would like me to cover in the future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a tips that can save you hours of work. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in next videos where we'll continue to unlock the full potential of Power Query.